There is a specific kind of silence that is louder than any scream. It's the silence of a prayer that has bounced off the ceiling for the 1,000th night in a row. You know this feeling. It is the suffocating atmosphere of the waiting room. You watch the world around you moving at warp speed. Colleagues getting the promotion you were qualified for 5 years ago. Friends posting ultrasound photos while your nursery remains empty. Relationships flourishing while you sit in solitude. You are doing everything right. You are praying. You are believing. You are serving. Yet, the heavens seem made of brass. The natural human reaction to this silence is to internalize it as rejection. We start to ask the dark questions. Did God forget me? Is there a secret sin blocking my file? Am I being punished? But what if the silence isn't an absence, but a strategy? What if the delay isn't a denial, but a divine architectural design for something you cannot yet see? To understand why you are stuck in this holding pattern, we have to fundamentally rewire how we interpret time. The pain of waiting is visceral. It's not just an inconvenience, it is a spiritual ache. King David, the man who wrote half the Psalms, wasn't immune to this. He screamed out, "How long, O Lord? Will you hide your face from me forever?" That is the sound of a human heart breaking under the weight of time. But here is the paradox we need to embrace. God's clock does not run on our mechanics. The prophet Isaiah gives us the blueprint, stating that God's ways are higher than our ways, as the heavens are higher than the earth. Think about that distance. We live our lives on the ground floor, obsessed with the immediate view, the ticking clock, the urgent deadline. God views the timeline from the stratosphere. He sees the end from the beginning. He sees the collision course you are on that you are blind to. He sees the character flaws that would crumble under the weight of the blessing you are asking for right now. So, the first step in surviving the wait is to reframe the narrative. You are not being ignored. You are being positioned. A delay is not a sign of God's apathy. It is often the greatest sign of His intentionality. He is never in a hurry, but He is never late. Let's look at the first major reason for these delays. Preparation. There is a massive difference between being ready for the title and being ready for the wait. God is far more interested in your character than your comfort, and He will pause a promise to protect the person carrying. Look at the life of Joseph. This is the ultimate case study in divine delay. At 17, he gets a technicolor dream of ruling, of leadership, of greatness. Does he wake up the next day as the Prime Minister of Egypt? No. He wakes up to a nightmare that lasts 13 years. He is thrown into a pit by his own blood. He is sold as property. He is falsely accused of rape. He is thrown into a dungeon. From 17 to 30, the prime years of his youth, Joseph is in the dark. Imagine the psychological warfare in that prison cell. God, you showed me a palace. Why am I staring at a stone wall? But here is the secret. The palace didn't make Joseph a leader. The prison did. In the pit, he learned resilience. In Potiphar's house, he learned administration. In the prison, he learned to interpret the dreams of others, while his own dream seemed dead. God wasn't withholding the position. He was forging the man. If Joseph had been given the throne at 17, he would have been an arrogant brat in a fancy coat. At 30, after the delay, he was a seasoned statesman ready to save civilization from starvation. Your waiting room is your gymnasium. The frustration you feel is the resistance training building the spiritual muscle you will need to hold up the blessing when it finally drops. There is a second, more protective layer to this: shielding. Sometimes God's "not yet" is an act of fierce paternal protection. Picture a father and his 16-year-old son. The son wants the keys to the brand new sports car. He sees the speed, the status, the freedom. The father sees the lack of impulse control, the dangerous curve down the road, and the statistical probability of a crash. The father says no, or wait, not because he is stingy, but because he loves the son too much to let him destroy himself. The delay is a shield. We see this played out geographically in the book of Exodus. When God liberated the Israelites, there was a direct coastal route to the Promised Land. It was a short trip, but the text says God specifically did not lead them that way, because if they faced war with the Philistines too early, they would run back to Egypt. They weren't ready for a fight. They still had a slave mindset, so he took them the long way, through the wilderness. That detour, that 40-year delay, was a safety mechanism. You might be praying for a relationship, but God sees the toxicity you can't spot. You might be praying for wealth, but God sees the greed that would consume your soul. You might be praying for a platform, but God sees the pride that would topple you. If the door is locked, stop banging on it. Trust that there is a danger behind it that you are being protected from. Then there is the third dimension, the mathematics of glory. Sometimes the delay is engineered to make the miracle impossible for man, so it is undeniably from God. This is the story of Abraham and Sarah. God promised them a son. Then he waited. He waited until Abraham was 100. He waited until Sarah was 90. He waited until, biologically speaking, the promise was dead. Sarah's womb was a tomb. Why wait that long? Why not do it when they were 40? Because if they had a child at 40, they could say, "Look at our virility. Look at our health." But when you have a baby at 90, nobody claps for you. They fall on their faces before God. The impossibility of the situation became the amplifier for God's glory. The longer the wait, the louder the testimony. If your situation looks dead, if the medical report is final, if the bank account is zero, you are actually in the perfect position for a resurrection miracle. God is letting the odds stack up against you so that when he moves, there will be no ambiguity about who did it. But perhaps the deepest reason, the one that touches the heart the most, is intimacy. The delay is an invitation. In John 11, we find a detail that makes no sense on the surface. Lazarus is sick. His sisters, Mary and Martha, send for Jesus. They expect him to drop everything. The text says, "Now Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus. So when he heard that Lazarus was sick, he stayed where he was 2 more days." Read that again. Because he loved them, he waited. That sounds backward. Love should mean urgency, right? But Jesus knew that if he went immediately, he would just be a healer. By waiting until Lazarus died, until he was buried, until the body began to decompose, Jesus could reveal himself as the resurrection. He wanted to give them a revelation of his nature that they could never get through an instant fix. The waiting room strips us of our idols. It strips us of our self-reliance. It forces us to stop looking at God's hands for what he can give us and start looking at his face for who he is. So how do we survive this? How do we wait without losing our minds? We have to shift our posture. First, move from wasting time to worship time. The enemy wants you to feel like your life is on pause. It's not. This is active time. Fill the silence with adoration. It changes the atmosphere of your mind. Second, change the question from "why me?" to "what for?" Why me creates a victim. What for creates a student. Ask God, what are you trying to teach me right now? What muscle are you building? And finally, stop feeling forgotten and start standing on being foreknown. Feelings are terrible navigators. They lie. The truth is, you are etched on the palms of his hands. This season feels like a burial, but it is actually a planting. You are being put in the dark soil not to rot, but to root. The silence is not rejection. It is the deep, heavy breath before the trumpet sounds. Your Joseph moment is coming. Your Red Sea is about to part. Your Lazarus is about to walk out of the tomb. But until then, you wait. Not passively, but with the fierce, defiant expectation that the God who started this work is faithful to finish it.